Good evening. Today we have a new session for book reading, and this is a book named Hotel Riviera, authored by R.K. Lakshman, who is a renowned cartoonist of India, and his cartoons have regaled every morning of all the Indians for last 30 to 50 years. And his brother, R.K. Narayan, has also been very well known as a novelist. So this is R.K. Lakshman writing a novel called The Hotel Riviera. We start. This is titled The Letter. Bhaskar sat cross-legged on the ancient chair in front of his roll-top desk and slid back the top after a brief tussle with the rusty mechanism. The inside revealed a fantastic arrangement of pigeonholes, drawers, and tiny doors. Indeed, with a little creative playfulness, he could have even seen in it mysterious passages, dark corridors, narrow alleys, balconies, and housetops, as he used to do some 60 years ago, perched on his grandfather's knee as the old man busied himself with the papers in a pigeonhole of the same old desk. Bhaskar took out a fat file from one of the drawers. It opened like the bellows of a camera, each of its folds being a compartment for papers. He held it upside down and emptied the contents on the green felt top of the table. The idea was to destroy the unwanted papers and arrange and classify the rest. This was not the first time that an attempt was being made towards this end. Several times over the years he had tried it, but every time he had been lost in the contents of various papers and letters, and after several hours he had got up after putting all the papers back again into the file. Bhaskar was a great one for preserving letters, which according to his definition meant all bits of papers that passed through his hands. There was a time when he would not throw away even handbills announcing drama shows. Weeks after the journey's end, he would still feel a deep attachment to a railway ticket. Though this passion gradually tapered off as he grew old, he was still in possession of a formidable collection of old letters, marriage invitation cards, doctor's prescriptions, recipes for special kinds of pickles, which cured stomach ailments, and a heap of undefinable papers. When his obsession was at its height, even the loss of a routine club circular had caused much tension at home, hot exchanges among the members of the family, and ended quite often in the little ones being spanked for converting the circular into a paper boat. Bhaskar firmly believed that all letters should be preserved for a week before their usefulness was scrutinized. For a week before their usefulness was scrutinized and then destroyed or filed. But in practice, only a very few were removed and the bulk survived for another week. Another, and yet another, until he developed a sentimental attachment to them. Then they acquired a status high enough to enter the protective folds of the big file and remained there, yellowing with age. He felt like a vandal damaging an antique if he were to destroy even a single bit of paper from the precious collection. But that morning, Bhaskar approached the file with a grim determination to attack the papers without letting the excuse of their age or his memories protect them. The first paper he came across was a telegram dated March 16, 1927, from Talivanam, a gritty, hot village whose architecture and temperature Bhaskar remembered were like those of a mud oven. The message in the telegram said, God's grace, Sharda gave birth to a male child. Mother and child well. Letter follows. It was the announcement of the birth of his first son, who was now in Delhi conducting research into a new strain of rice which would which would solve the nation's food problem in 20 years. He had even been invited to Geneva to read papers before some important world body. The thought of this son always warmed Bhaskar's heart, as he was a contrast to the second son who, after marrying a rich girl, never did a stroke of work and made a fool of himself, letting her openly lead him by the nose. But he was a good sportsman in his day. The glass case in the hall was full of silver trophies of all sizes and shapes won by him. The thought of trophies made Bhaskar feel a little charitable. After all, the young fellow was not a bad sort. It was his mother who spoiled him. He kept the telegram aside and picked up a thick, gilt-edged, embossed card. It was an invitation addressed to his father to a civic reception arranged in honor of him, His Excellency Sir Maurice Baring, KCIE, Governor of So. Next was a letter from Bhaskar's mother, written to him when he was studying in Madras. He ran his eyes over the letter. And do not fail to take oil bath every week and drink plenty of milk before going to bed. I read somewhere that milk has the medicinal property of 100 apples. It went on thus for nearly 2 pages. Then there were quite a few bills of 1920 vintage from the Southern Silk Emporium and the National Provision Stores, both of which had disappeared long ago under a road broadening scheme launched by the local municipality. For a second, the image of his daughter on the morning of her wedding day came to his mind. Shy, bedecked in flowers, looking absurdly small, she was almost lost in the billowing brocade sari supplied by the Southern Silk. She herself had a daughter now to be married and 3 brilliant sons, poised to take off to various corners of the USA and Germany for higher technical training. As he was thinking of his daughter, his eyes fell on a piece of paper on which was written sandalwood powder, claws of a cat, camphor. It was a recipe for making incense sticks. He had copied it from a book as a boy with the hope of becoming financially independent of his father by manufacturing and selling his own brand of incense sticks. The project collapsed for want of raw materials except camphor. He could get no other ingredients. He reached for a pink letter on the heap and unfolded it. He realized with a start that it was a letter written by him in a juvenile hand of nearly half a century ago. He remembered writing it sitting close to a railway track in a wide field under a burning sun. That was the morning of the morning, the SSLC exam results were announced. For the second year running, Bhaskar did not find his number in the paper. His father had not only hired three high-powered private tutors to reinforce his son's own efforts to understand biology, Sanskrit, and algebra, but had promised to thrash him within an inch of his life if he failed to get a first class. Now he had not even got a class. He had failed totally. My God. And his father was a man of his word. Bhaskar saw him advancing toward him with eyes burning with anger, nostrils dilated, bellowing, and finally pouncing on Bhaskar. The picture sent him fleeing to the rail track in terror. The 11:15 Trindivanam passenger passed that way, if it was punctual. Bhaskar finished writing the note and surveyed the field. There was nothing in sight except a lame donkey in search of grass. Far away, the conical shapes of the important buildings of the town quivered in the simmering heat of the sun. He folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket. He thought of the news item that would appear in the local paper. A note found on the mutilated body indicated that the deceased took his own life. He thought of his mother. She was the only one who would really suffer. The whole house would be plunged in gloom. A sudden surge of self-pity blocked his throat momentarily. He could not imagine his father feeling sorry for him. On the other hand, he would perhaps keep his appointment at the bridge table at the club. He would not miss that, not even when his son perished under the wheels of the Tindivanam passenger. If his father had been a little more sensible, Bhaskar would have been home by now, had his lunch, and be lounging in the easy chair, poring over the Sports Weekly, instead of waiting for the train to solve his educational problem. He wondered what they would do with his personal things. He felt relieved that he did not take his bicycle along to see the results that morning. He would have had to abandon it there on the field. Cycle thieves were doing a roaring business everywhere, but he had taken the precaution of scratching his initials in 7 secret places all over his bicycle. A distant whistle pierced his thoughts. He was startled. His whole body throbbed like one big agitated heart. Beads of perspiration gathered over his brows and flowed down. The train had left the city station and would arrive here at any moment. The sun was high in the sky, pouring down on the landscape, heat and light with elemental fury, melting all color and form to a mass of white heat. It became unbearable for Bhaskar. He gazed steadily at the spot where the train would appear. His head ached and his eyes smarted with the glare. He turned away for a brief second of relief, and the lame donkey caught his attention. The chugging of the approaching train came faintly from a distance. Bhaskar saw it and involuntarily moved away a little. It grew menacingly bigger every second. Suddenly he was seized with panic and confusion. He did not know at what point one introduced one's head to the wheels of the monstrously huge train. He was overwhelmed by its speed and noise as it thundered past him. Bhaskar watched the carriages loyally clank past, and soon he saw the last carriage hurrying away with a gentle sway and disappear around the bend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sitting at the railway desk that morning, Bhaskar glanced through the suicide note. My dear father and mother, cruel fate. I have, I have no alternative. Miserable existence. Time will heal. Worthless son. Relief to all. Bhaskar chuckled to himself as he folded the letter and put it back in the file. He gathered all the other letters in one sweep, stuffed them back into it, and rolled down the top of the desk. So that is the end of one chapter.
Can you give us a summary of the story?
Next, we will be reading the next chapter.
Can you give us a summary of the
This starts with this boy, I don't know his age. His father has tried to put 3 tutors, one for maths, one for biology, one for something, 3 subjects, so that he would ensure that this boy gets good marks. And maybe even a class or grade or something. And he has royally flunked all the exam. And he was looking for some class, first class, second class, third class in the exam. But he had no class, he lost everything. And so he was very dejected. So he has written a letter saying he is going to kill himself. And this Tindivanam Express comes along their side of the village. So he has been to that railway station, a railway train track. There's a field and the track and everything. And he says, now the train is due. So the train has given the sound, the whistle at the station at a little distance. And now it will come. He has written a note saying that he is this and that it will be a relief for all and all. So he is waiting, then the train comes, he is waiting, train comes and he is pushing back. Because I say, oh, I didn't realize it would be so huge. And at what point do I put my head into the track between the wheels? So by the time the train is gone, dug, it goes. So he's relieved, at the same time he's sad that he did not complete it. So then he folds that and puts it back into that big accordion file. It has got so many compartments. So in that, all the papers which his father or everything is in that since 2 generations. And he has been trying to sort it out and reduce it. But he never succeeded in throwing away one single paper, because every single paper has got value and memory. So every time he looks at it, yes, this can, no. So he puts it back. So the file is full. And in that now one more paper, his own suicide note is also there. Train has gone. So he has finished. Then he wants to go home. That is the first chapter of this story. Starts with a very gripping episode.
And what's the second chapter for?
Second chapter I have yet to read, The Gold Frame. Will be something entirely, I don't know if it's a continuation of the story. Okay.
I don't know. Let's see.
I like these people's stories. They bring some refreshingly different thought, which changes your entire view, background, your brain, your viewpoint. Nice.